Pranam Swamniji.
Namaste.
Namaste to everyone. Om Swamniji. We at Advaita Academy welcome Swaminiji and you all to this 1 month long Oneness Festival, a global celebration of Adi Shankaracharya ji. In this session, we have a live talk by Swamini Swatma Vidyananda ji, followed by a Q&A, and then a video in German by Srimati Dhyana Eva ji. Please stay back for both. And for the new attendees, we have 4 sessions every day, 2 in the morning at 6 a.m. IST and 2 in the evening at 6:30 p.m. IST. We have with us Swamini Swatma Vidyananda ji, who is the Acharya and Spiritual Director of Arsha Vijnana Gurukulam, USA. Swamini ji studied at the feet of Puja Swami Dayananda Saraswati ji and now gives discourses in a very similar engaging style all over the world. Please visit arshavm.org to access Swaminiji's archive talks as well as to attend ongoing online classes for free. Swaminiji also teaches Hinduism at Berkeley. Today, Swaminiji will tell us on how not to fear, not to grieve, and to be liberated with a verse from Kathopanishad, which is a dialogue between Nachiketa and Lord Yama. You can put in your comments and questions in the chat box, and I will pass them on to Swaminiji right after the talk for a Q&A. I humbly welcome Swaminiji again and request her to please start her discourse. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha.
Thank you. Thank you to Indic Academy and thank you to Kavita. And the way you were explaining the verse, I thought maybe you should only talk. You are doing a good job.
Thank you so
Very
much.
nice job. Yeah. So it is wonderful to be here with all of you and to participate in, what did you call it? Global Oneness Festival. Very nice name, you know. And indeed, Adi Shankara's birthday should be everyone's birthday because we celebrate the rebirth into a new life of a committedness to study, to be with ourselves and to understand the truth of the truth of the self as Ishvara. You know, that is basically what this whole thing is all about. So let us start with our Shanti Mantra prayer and then we will go with the verse. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So some topic Kavita asked to choose for today. And this verse came. It is the first verse of the second half of what is called the second subsection of the second chapter of the Kathopanishad. And the Kathopanishad, you know, has a an abiding presence. The importance of the Kathopanishad cannot be underscored. It has an abiding presence in Advaita Vedanta because it is most often the entry into the Shastra, you know, more often than not is made through the Kathopanishad because it is engaging, you know, and one doesn't want to, you know, in the beginning, at least the seeker has to be cajoled into the Shastra. And so the Kathopanishad is a beautiful, you know, example of the new seeker who has so many other, what is that called, you know, various attractive things in the universe. Each one calling louder than the other. Eat me, drink me, experience me. You know, each one calling out louder than the other. And all the sense organs, of course, naturally gravitate towards the objects in the universe, in the whole Jagat. And then Here is poor Vedanta, hardly any takers, because its importance is not understood. Its importance is not understood because it is, it's not seen, it is seen as one more pursuit in the whole universe. So before this, you know, coronavirus, I actually call it Karuna virus, before the virus kept us all at home, everybody thought of themselves as completely indispensable, as actors, as people, running around, and this is what one had to be. And so then, to such a person, you say, make some time for Vedanta. Then obviously there are difficulties because immediately one thinks on what all is on one's list, one's including the bucket list, and on one's plate, all the things that are on one's plate, and immediately one says there is no time for Vedanta because it's one more thing I have to do. Well, the Kathopanishad very clearly shows it's not one more thing you have to do because all the things that you are doing, all the things that you're engaging in, all the things that make up what is called your, very full life, they are all belonging to one category of activities and one category of reality called mithya. You know, this is what the Kathopanishad, and of course Adi Shankara's commentary, masterful commentary on it, both of them show that this is what is, this is what is being talked about here. Vedanta, Brahma Vidya, which takes away Atma Ajnanam, is not one of the many pursuits in your life for which you have to make the time. In fact, it's the only thing. In fact, all your desires, all your actions converge, in knowing yourself as free of all actions, free of being an actor and agent, free of kartritvam, and free of what is called bhoktritvam, being an experiencer of the results of action. Otherwise, there is a kind of a cycle, you see, action, result, action, result, action, result, actor, and then now I'm a karta, then I'm a, experiencer, bhokta, karta, bhokta, karta, bhokta, in between pramata, knower of something or the other. This is how the whole thing, the whole life goes away like this. But the Kathopanishad makes a very important point, and it talks about, it's a wonderful entry into this, and it talks about how all your desires, everything that you think you want, and everything that you think, your life cannot be without, is all really pointing to yourself, and you take whatever you want. You take any object of desire, whether, like for example, a car, you take a car, and then without, you want a particular kind of a car, a particular branded car. Without the car, you feel bekar, that is also there. And so now, how do you overcome that? How do you see that? How do you get that, you see through that this car is not really what one wants. This is what the Kathopanishad talks about, that what you need is Shreyas. Shreyas means that which is the truth of yourself, that which is whole, that which is free, that which never comes to an end. A car, comes to an end. Anything that you desire is finite. Anything that you objectify is finite. Anything that you want is finite. Anything that you seek is finite. Everything that everything is finite. Whatever you touch is finite. And so therefore, what you want is the infinite. And the infinite cannot be had as an object because it is you, your very nature. This is the message of the Kathopanishad. And even though it's a very profound and a philosophical message, it is given in a manner that is very easy to understand. And that's why, it's explained to an 80-year-old boy, Nachiketa, by none other than the Lord of Death, who is ironically talking about the teaching of immortality. Immortality, if it obtains in the body, mind, sense complex, that is not what we are talking about. Immortality as the one who is free of the body, mind, sense complex. But how to see this? How to make this separation? Because the I that abides in the body, in the mind, in the senses, the I that I can delineate as occupying this body is yet separate from this body. This can cause a little bit of a confusion. And that's why this particular mantra, which we are going to study today, gives some very nice clues about how to delineate, between the body and the one who is the indweller of the body, how to differentiate and how to keep that differentiation going, how to keep that in one's awareness, B, and C, what is the prayojanam, what happens as a result of this distinction, as a result of this making this distinction. And as Kavita said, that has something definitely to do with, that has very much to do with the removal of sorrow and fear, which is what is called samsara. Samsara is just sorrow and fear. There's nothing other than that. Okay. So then we will be looking at this verse and seeing, what the verse has to say, and then what is Adi Shankara's contribution. We may not have time because there's 45 minutes or something. We may not have time to go through the whole bhashya, but I will summarize it and give the gist of it. Okay. Yeah. So first we will read the verse. Puramekadashadvaram ajasya vakrachetasah अनुष्ठाय न शोचति विमुक्तश्च विमुच्यते etadvai tat. This is a verse, very beautiful and wonderfully expressed, occurring bang in the middle of the Upanishad, just around the time where in the mind of the seeker, in the mind of the student, that this is where a certain complacency can take place, a lag can take place. Now half of the Upanishad is over. Well, what have I got? Nothing. Or it's just more of the same. Atma, 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 Brahman, Brahman, Brahman. Am I ever going to get this knowledge? So there's some kind of a doubt that can come at this time, some kind of a diffidence that can come at this time. So, therefore, it just sort of picks up. This particular verse is meant to, engage the mind in a different way. It's a kind of a picker upper of sorts, and what it does is it just fills the quest with a new lease of life. And same thing we see. This is the particular methodology followed by the Vedanta Shastra itself. And then copying the Kathopanishad, the Bhagavad Gita does exactly the same thing. The 9th chapter, again, you have to wake up for that. You have to sit up, and some very important and terse concepts are explained, and the teaching is given. And so, you have to, it's a very important chapter and right in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita. And so similarly here, occurring right in the middle of the Upanishad is this wonderful verse. Let us see the meaning first. So the meaning is this: Puram Ekadashadvaram. So there is a city. And what is this city? Ekadashadvaram. It's a city, rather, it is a citadel. It's a city or a citadel. It's a walled city. Meaning it's a citadel. Citadel means, no one can come in unless, you permit. And no one can go out unless you permit. That kind of a citadel, a fort, a fortress. And so the fortress has a unique quality. And what is this quality? It has 11 gates. It has 11 portholes through which whatever is outside can enter. Very nice. So there is this walled city with 11 doors. And see, this is something very interesting, because if the city is there, then some certain other things also must be there, correct? And what is the city for? The city is not for what are those things you see in the movies, abandoned cities with those tumbleweeds. Yeah, that's what they are called. These big some kind of a thorny things that collect together, and then they just go like this, like a ghostly quality it has to it. No, the city is meant for people. The city is meant for someone to live in it, correct? The fort is meant to keep the king safe. So the city here is like a fortress, the citadel, and the citadel is for the safety of the king, who should not succumb to the enemy that is battering outside. That is the whole idea. And so from here we have to understand that and who is this person, who is this king is given here. Puram Ekadasha Dwaram, a city of 11 gates, made for whom Ajasya Avakrachetasaha. Ajasya. So the one who is living in the city, the king, the city Swami. The Swami of the city is what? Is Ajaha, unborn. Oh, you mean still yet to be born? No, not yet to be born. Who is not subject to birth. Najayate iti ajaha, is not subject to birth. Is not subject to birth, and also logically, what else? Not subject to death either. So this citadel is for that indweller who is like the Swami of the city, who is like the king of the city. And this king of the city is who? Is the one who is not subject to death, not subject to birth. And who is this one that is not subject to birth or death? The next word will say Avakrachetasaha. Avakram Chetaha Yasya Saha. So the one, whose awareness. Chetaha here is, awareness. The one whose awareness is avakram. Avakram means not subject to distortions, not subject to any kind of change, not subject to going up and down, not subject to any kind of modifications, and not subject to subjectivity. This is very, very important. So this is the consciousness. Consciousness here means awareness. Awareness of what? That is exactly what is avakrachetasa, aware of nothing in particular, but at the same time, it is all knowledge. More about that we'll see. We'll just see the meaning first. So obviously it is talking of Atma, the Antaratma, the Pratyagatma, the Atma that is as though. And we have to, in Vedanta, we have to always add the word as though, Why? Because, it's not, if the Atma were really, locked in the body, mind, sense complex, in this citadel of this body, mind, sense complex, then it will no longer be Satchidananda. It will no longer be limitless. It is no longer, free. It is no longer all pervasive. So therefore we have to say, avachinnam iva, as though conditioned, Deha avachinna atma. So the body, that is the atma, the cheta here, the consciousness, atma, Brahman, whatever you want to call it, this, Bhagavan, really. So this Paramatma, which is as though conditioned by this body, mind, sense complex. So in Vedanta, we always make a point to use the word as though. This should become part of our vocabulary. And our vocabulary should be there to always say as though. And when you say as though, then, then it's kind of nice, because then you don't take things too seriously. Yeah, you don't take things too seriously, and you can just sort of, keep saying as though. And you can have a sense of humor about everything, including your own life. Are you mad? Are you angry? As though. Are you hungry? As though. It's kind of fun. You can try it. So here, this ajaha, this unborn I, Atma, which is going to be equated into to Bhagavan, which is in the Bhashya and in the teaching itself. So, Ajasya, and how do we know that? Because of the word that follows. Many things are unborn. Even this thing, even Ajnanam doesn't have a birthday. Ajnanam is also unborn, but thankfully, it has a death day, so that is good. So Ajnanam is unborn. So many things are unborn, and Aja also is another word. Meaning of the word Aja can be goat. So that we don't come into the spell of thinking about all this, the various possibilities of the word Aja. So it qualifies the one and only, non-dually one and only thing, this consciousness. And what is this consciousness? Now, that which obtains in this body mind sense as though, as I. When I ask you the question, are you here? And what do you say? You have to say yes. And the one that says yes is this Atma, that is as though living in this walled city. Ajasya avakra chetasaha. And so this Atma is qualified by the word avakram chetaha yasya saha, because tasya. So because this avakra chetasaha means this Atma, this I, is not the body, because it's living in the body. So that which is in the body cannot be the body, because the body is the home for what? Like when you go out for a walk and come open the door, or take out your keys, open the main door and enter the house. You don't become the house, correct? You don't say I house. You may say my house. That's a different thing. You enter the house and the house is there. It is what is called, what Adi Shankara calls samhata. Samhata means it is put together. Why? For you to sit there and enjoy, for you to live in it. And nowadays this is a wonderful example, because everybody is staying at home more so than any other point in time. so this is a good example. Your house, crack by crack, every single thing now you are aware of. And so this is just wonderful. It's a wonderful example. So just like when you enter your house, you do Griha Pravesham and you take Bhagavan's photo, and then after that you enter your house, you unpack the suitcase, you start living in it. You don't become the house. The house is put together for something other than the house. This is called Samhati Nyaya. Samhati, means the logic of, the invariable logic where something is put together for the sake of something else. So the house is not built for itself. It's not that somebody builds the house and says, then you please come for Griha Pravesham, and then you say, oh, are you going to live in it? No. Oh, is it for your children? No. Oh, are you going to give it on rent? No. Then what is this house for? Why did you build it? Just for the sake of the house. Nobody does that. So when you build the house, so samhati means when something is put together. Samhatatvat, because it is put together, it is for the sake of something else. And so that something else has to be different from that which is put together. So the house does not become the indweller. The indweller does not become the house. Those are two separate entities. This is very beautifully put here. And so the indweller of the house is ajaha, unborn, and already different from the house. What is the house? The house is just born. just now made, the fort is just born, the citadel is just born, you know. Had a time, even now if you go to Rajasthan in India, then you see all these forts and they will say, okay, 14th century, 13th century it was built. So we know the dates, birth dates of those forts. But for the Atma, there is no birth date. That is the first clue you get about the I. The I is not the house, and if the house represents the body, I am not the body. And the house represents also the mind, because it's a lot of things coming together, put together. I is not the mind, I is not the body, I is not the senses. But all these things have come together to make an as though home, as it were, for the I, the Atma. And what is this Atma? Unborn, not subject to birth or death. And then Avakrachetasaha, the one whose light, is like the sun. It does not wane, it does not change. The one of undistorted, unbending, unending stream of light. And what is this light? The light is all knowledge. Light is nothing but knowledge. But how can you say, I am unborn? Okay, I can understand. But how can you say I'm all knowledge? Because, whatever, when you say I exist, I am, when you say I know, I am, that is all knowledge. That I know never becomes I don't know. Even if you say, I don't know Chinese language, I don't know Mandarin, if you say, then, what are you really saying? I know that I don't know Mandarin. This is what you're really saying. So this, avakra chetaha, the one that is of unswerving, this consciousness, cheta here is consciousness. This, chit here is what? Chit means what? This all-knowing being. So Sat means that which exists, the I which exists, a being. And then Chit means a conscious being. A being which is conscious. Conscious of what? It is conscious of itself. So it is Swatah Siddha, self-evident, and it is conscious of everything else. Everything else becomes evident to which that is what is all knowledge. Because really speaking, everything in the Jagat, whatever you see is, you say, this is a cup. If you say, this is a pot, pot cannot be separated from pot, knowledge is. Pot is nothing but knowledge. No, but what about name and form and all these things? Name and form, okay, theek hai. But then that name and form resolves into knowledge. So whatever you say about the pot, it is this size, it is this volume, it holds so much water, it is this color because we have put some paint or glaze on it, it is this color, it is, it is sitting here, it is used as a flower vase. All these things, whatever you say about the pot is just knowledge. And this knowledge, without a particular head to hold it in, is called all knowledge. This is what is Satchidananda. This is what is Paramatma, Bhagavan. And then this being, which is Sat, which is existent, which is all knowledge, is also all pervasive. In fact, the very next verse after this is going to show that, this Atma is not as though just confined to one body. It is the truth of all bodies, all minds. Ham sashuchi sat, vasurantariksha sat, hota vedi sat, adhithir durona sat, nrisat, varasat, ritasat, all these. And then ham sashuchi sat. Sat is there. Everything is sat. That which goes in the sky is Sat. And then that which obtains in the water, Sat. That which flies, Sat. That which is the truth of the human being, Sat. So it occupies all bodies, and this all pervasive consciousness which obtains as I with regard to a particular body mind sense complex has as though entered the body, entered the mind, like even the king entering a fort, a citadel. And the citadel has 11 openings. Adi Shankara explains what they are. So he says 7 in the head and the face, So then, 7 we can count, eyes, nostrils, 4, mouth, 5, like this, you go, and then 2 ears, okay, 7. And then navel, 8, and then the organs of excretion, 9 and 10. And then one more, this is called Brahmarandhra, from the head, where the prana, ideally passes away after the death. The subtle body goes away after death, goes to various destinations. That is the 11th, aperture, a subtle aperture, sukshma aperture. You cannot see this. So Puram Ekadasha Dwaram. So these are the 11 apertures. These are the 11 portholes into the Jagat, from where the Jagat enters, one's consciousness. And this consciousness is free, and it is all pervasive, and it is Satchidananda. It is a conscious being. And then, like a Raja, Rajasthaniya. Rajasthaniya doesn't mean coming from Rajasthan. That which is in the place of a king. Raja, Raja, Rajnah, Rajnah Sthaniya, Rajasthaniya. So the one who is in the place of a king. And so the one who is in the place of the king is free of the travails and the pains and sorrows of the body and the mind. This is and the senses. Because the senses are the servant to which consciousness. The organs of actions are the servant to which consciousness. And the mind is a servant to which consciousness. And the buddhi, these are all like, what is that, these like the whole coterie of ministers, sentries, etc. that surround a king. Adi Shankara says very beautifully in the Bhashya. So what do? They all surround the king. And then, so there are ministers. And who are these ministers? They go far and wide and they get information and come back. So they are the sense organs. Then, the Raja has an army, foot soldiers, horse soldiers, they are, various units, of the armies, the different units of the armies, and the infantry, cavalry, etc. And those are the organs of action. So the sense organs are like intelligent ministers. They go and say, oh, over there, this is happening, over here, in this Pradesha, that is happening. So likewise, the eyes go out and say, there is something nice to see. And the nostrils go out and say, somebody is making pakodas, in this age of quote unquote physical social distancing. So maybe they can give you some if you stand 6 feet apart. So the nose goes and, gets that information. And of course, the tongue happily, says, okay, what shall we order today, because all the restaurants are closed. So like this, these are all like the ministers. Adi Shankara beautifully says this in the Bhashya. And then, then what happens? So these are the ministers, the intelligent ministers. They go out and give the information. But before the information comes to the king, there is one chief minister. The chief minister, which is in the form of first they report to one, assistant minister, like the mind, who decides which one to pursue. And then then it goes, all the information goes to the chief minister. And what does the chief minister do? The chief minister says, okay, we are going to go for this one. The chief minister is the buddhi, and so like this, so the buddhi, and all these are, what is that, servants, so to speak, They're paricharakas, so servants to help this king, they are in service of this king. They are all there. And this is what is called Samhati Nyaya, because this whole setup is there for the sake of the king. And therefore, the king is different from this setup. And this is the Drishtanta. And of course, the Darshtanta, that which it exemplifies, is again very, very beautiful. That which which exemplifies this is what is this Atma, for which this whole body, mind, sense complex exists. Because the Atma is not there means what? What do you have? A dead body. Because the Atma is what powers the body. So for the sake of this Atma, the whole body, mind, sense assemblage exists. And then what is the first thing to know is that the I, the Atma, is not the body, not the mind, not the senses. But without the Atma, none of them can exist. All of them are dependent on I. The I is independent of all of them. This is a very beautiful application of what is called Samhati Nyaya. Very beautiful. Samhati Nyaya, the logic of the fact that that which is assembled is not for its own sake. It is for something else that is different from whatever is all the ingredients involved in the assemblage. So this is what we have to see this. This is what the first line talks about. And then so the corollary, logically speaking, from there, is very nice. So what happens here? So anusthaya na shochati. Anu plus tha. Anusthaya, having done anusthana. Anusthana means, there are many meanings. First meaning is that, it's like your daily puja, etc. Worshipping. That's one meaning. Some kind of a discipline you have in the puja. You remove the old flowers and then you put new flowers, and then you sit, you change the water, you get the naivedya ready, you sit and do some dhyanam, and then you chant the various shlokas, ashtottara, etc. And then you do naivedya, arati. This is the whole thing is called anusthana, like a nitya karma, daily puja. But here, Adi Shankara, looks at a deeper meaning. Because what is the anusthana in Vedanta? In Vedanta, the anusthana is, worshipping the knowledge. But worshipping the knowledge is not the same as worshipping the book. If you have Bhagavad Gita, in front of the altar, and then you sit and worship the book, what will happen? Nothing will happen, So the worship of the Vedanta Shastra, the Anushtanam of Vedanta Shastra is through the active sevanam, through the study, through a committed pursuit. So you show the reverence to Vedanta Shastra by following it in a committed fashion, by studying it regularly. Meaning, even after this oneness festival, you continue to study. Yeah. So the Indic Academy has done us a wonderful, service by introducing everybody to Vedanta for this 1 month. And then after that, you can just continue with it. Listen to some teacher every day. And if you have time, twice a day, it will definitely pay off. And so then anusthaya means once you do this sevanam, and how do you do this sevanam? And Adi Shankara says dhyatva. Dhyatva means, having meditated upon how, this keeping the knowledge in view, Atmajnanam puraskritya, keeping the knowledge right in the forefront, meditating upon the I. Meditating here is contemplating upon the I as free of shoka. Shoka means sorrow. Because how can there be sorrow? What sorrow? Because the one who is, living in this assemblage is not the assemblage. So the assemblage can creak, like the doors and the walls of the citadel can be creaky, it can be leaky, it can have cracks, it can have some problems, but it is not you. So similarly, the body can have its problems. So if you were to ask the question, will Vedanta remove will the study of Vedanta remove all my problems? The answer will be a resounding no. The problems will continue. Ayo, maybe I should log off right now. Please don't, because there is an advantage. What is the advantage? The advantage is that the problems will continue, but you become bigger than the problems that face you. You become bigger by understanding that you are the Raja, you are the Swami, and you enjoy, Swarajyam, as the Taittiriya Upanishad says. Apnoti Swarajyam, that one, You gain mastery of yourself by seeing that you are not subject to any of this. You are free, you are totally free. And so the travails that assail the body do not belong to the owner of this body mind sense complex, the as though owner that is free of birth and death, that is free of all distorted notions. This is very, very important. We have to, as I said, we have to revisit that a bit. So anusthaya na shochati. Na shochati means there is nothing to grieve. What to talk of fear? Adi Shankara says, bhayeksha kutaha tasya. Bhayeksha means there is no, bhaya. Iksha means the observation of bhaya is not seen. For such a person, there is no bhaya. And this is this consciousness that has to be understood, assimilated as the truth of oneself. So the I that was lingering, the I notion that was hanging out in the realm of the body mind sense complex has to be taken out, through this persistent exposure to Vedanta, and it has to join this ajasya avakrachetasah. It has to join this aja and avakrachetas. It has to join. It has to join that, it has to understand itself. I have to understand myself as free of raga, dvesha, strong preferences, prejudices, dukkha, shoka, sorrow, bhaya, fear, anxieties. I have to, see myself as not an assemblage of the body, mind, sense complex, but someone that is living here for the time being. Just like in all the in all the countries now, more or less, we can look forward to, people are saying that okay, the lockdowns will be lifted, so people can start moving around, just like that. So here also, with Vedanta Jnanam, that lockdown feeling that I'm as good as the house, I'm as good as the body, I'm as good as the mind, I'm as good as the senses. And Dehe nashte aham nashtaha. If the body is destroyed, I am as good as gone, And if the mind is destroyed, I'm gone. If the senses are gone, I'm gone. If my possessions are gone, I'm gone. Like this, the I is spread out too thin. It is there. The I has gone off the deep end and joined the not I. And so the infinite has been, what should I say? It has been quote unquote transformed, as it were, into the finite. No wonder there is sorrow. Because if the infinite is mistaken for the finite, definitely there is sorrow. And then by a strange logic, the finite is mistaken for the infinite. Because in everything that comes to an end, one wants to make it endless. The body comes to an end, but one wants to make it live forever. That's why everybody keeps pumping antioxidants, keep eating this, keep eating all the, every berry that you can find, you keep, eating that. And so many things to keep this body, to make this body immortal, to make the finite infinite. And the infinite therefore is lost, and then it is seen as finite. And this is called, anyonya adhyasa, a mutual, mistake, superimposition. And so to lift this transference, one has to first get into the place of a sakshin, a witness. And what does the witness do? Witnesses the body, witnesses the mind, and sees that whatever is being witnessed, it is not me. Whatever I'm objectifying, it is not I. And who is this I? I am the unborn conscious being of unchanging light, unchanging auspicious consciousness, the one who is not distorted, whose views are just objective, who is all knowledge, and who is free of being an agent or free of being an experiencer. This is where the sorrow is, because one identifies with karta, another place of sorrow. One identifies with the experiencer, or the bhokta. So this karta bhokta, I'm not, karta is me, I'm not karta. Body is of course I, where else, because everything is atma, I am not the body. Mind is I am not the mind. Senses are of course, me, but I'm not the senses. This is how one practices, and the more one practices, then anushtaya, this practice is called anusthana, this is a form of contemplation, and this cannot come unless one has a committed, dedicated exposure to Vedanta Shastra, under a teacher for a length of time. And then anushtaya, this, doing this, na shochati. So worshipping the Paramatma within as the truth of oneself, seeing that what is living in this body is Ishvara, and this Ishvara is nothing but this Ahankara, the truth, the content of this Ahankara, this I notion is Ishvara alone, and this Ishvara, worshipping this Ishvara in the form of gaining knowledge about this Ishvara, then what happens? Nashochati, vimukto bhavati, becomes free of samsara, becomes free of feeling or seeing that one is the feeling of being trapped. No wonder one is in no longer one is in a citadel, one is free of feeling trapped. The notion of feeling trapped is not there. One becomes what is called jivan mukta. So then this Jivan Mukta, what does the Jivan Mukta do? The Jivan Mukta is free enough to lead her life, his life, exactly how they want it. And then when the body drops, they are not born again, because the causal body is not there. The physical body is left behind for all to see. And then, the subtle body has already been resolved. What is the subtle body? Ragadveshas. All the sense objects, everything that one desires, make up the subtle body. Pancha pranas, all these things, identified with the ragadveshas. But the ragadveshas are not there. Desires have been managed. The desires are not binding the person to go find another body. They are no longer binding desires. So those, so the subtle body goes back to the subtle five elements from where they came. The gross body goes back to the earth element, whether it is burnt, cremated, or interred under the ground. And then what about the causal body? The causal body is Atma Ajnanam, which is the cause of birth after birth after birth, in some called samsara. So here that causal body has resolved because there is no Ajnanam. So what happens to the person? The person was worshipped as Ishvara, and then after the person drops the body, continues to bless all the devotees as Ishvara alone. Continues in the form of Ishvara, because that's how they recognized themselves and became free of this samhati. Otherwise, the samhati becomes, what? The cause of mahati vinashtihi. It becomes the cause of great destruction because of the identification. And so right in the middle, we have this wonderfully helpful verse where Adi Shankara shows, delineates, the Kathopanishad shows how to get some perspective from the body, mind, sense complex. And Adi Shankara adds to it and talks about how to gain this knowledge so that one is free from the both from the samsara of sorrow and pain in this life, and from the samsara of continued births in other lives as well. Thank you very much. I look forward to your questions. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadagya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Thank you, Swaminiji. That was very thought-provoking as usual. And I don't see many questions in the chat box. And I love the simile of the lockdown, that we are locked down in the bodies, but we shouldn't feel like that. So that's a great topical simile, as usual again.
Yeah, well, we are locked down in Vedanta. It's a nice thing to do. Yeah. So there are no questions?
I don't
Okay.
see anything in the chat box, Swaminiji.
Okay. No problem.
We look forward to having Swaminiji again soon on this platform.
You said something about May 2nd, right?
Yes, Swaminiji.
Okay. Let us. That will be again this time in the evening?
It is the second session, Swaminiji. It will be 7:15.
In the morning?
In the night, PM.
7:15.
That is India time. So 6:45 in the morning.
6:45 in the morning?
PST, yeah. UG.
Yeah, let me think about it. I'll get back to you.
Sure.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All the best.
Thank you so much, Swamiji.
Take care. Om.